855. Coming up, lawyer extraordinaire, Jeff O'Brien, is going to be calling in. We've got a couple of different things to talk about with him. One of them being the Minnesota Court of Appeals, as Sam mentioned in her top five, turning back the challenge by State Auditor Rebecca Otto, and 50 prospective jurors were sworn in the Philando Castile trial, which is getting underway. Lots to cover coming up. Looking at Twitter, Jimmy Kimmel, he tweeted out, "What makes me saddest is that I know I'll never write anything funnier than hashtag Confefe." Donald Trump's midnight tweet about the negative press Confefe typo that has now provided so much joy to the world. It evens everything out. Welcome back to Justice and Drew on Twin Cities News Talk. You know, because on the one end of the spectrum, you have Kathy Griffin showing us there is a line in Trump derangement syndrome with her horrible photo of a beheaded Donald Trump that she quasi-apologized for. And then on the other end of the spectrum, you have the president even making fun of himself with his Confefe tweet. And it just seems like, you know, the universe has a way of balancing itself out. It's the balance.
It's the great Confefe.
The question is, and somebody, Kevin emailed this, and we had it in the story, is that Senator Al Franken is supposed to do an event in Beverly Hills with Kathy Griffin at some point, and
some promotion for his pretentious, pompous book.
Yeah, it's an event billed as Senator Al Franken in conversation with Kathy Griffin.
Yeah.
Well, and Jennifer Carnahan, the Minnesota GOP chair, had come out and asked if he would, remove himself from that event. And I don't think the apology is enough to. I mean, I think he should.
Well, and
I think it would be smart for him too.
Al Franken's office offered a response. They provided this statement: Senator Franken thinks Kathy Griffin is a talented comedian and respects her right to free speech, but believes that this image was inappropriate and not the kind of thing that should be part of our national discourse. Franken has not yet said, though, if he's going to keep his appearance with Griffin.
Well, you've gone too far when Al Franken, kind of backs off.
Starts to back off.
Yeah, it's like, whoa, hey, it's a little too far there, lady. Come on now.
Joining us now, friend of the show, lawyer extraordinaire, Jeffrey O'Brien. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, guys.
Thank you for taking some time to join us. Lots to get to with you. I want to start with Governor Dayton's move yesterday to defund the House and Senate over some provisions in the budget bills that he all signed into law. I guess my question for you is, I'm assuming that this will eventually get heard by the courts.
I hope so.
Yeah, probably the Supreme Court of the state, I would imagine. Do you think what he did yesterday, based on, I know you haven't probably had a ton of time to look into it, but do you think what he did yesterday is constitutional?
I would, if I'm advising the House and Senate leaders, I would do something similar to what we're going to talk about here in a minute with the lawsuit that Rebecca Otto brought. I would say that this violates the Minnesota Constitution in terms of being it prevents the legislature from doing its job. When they didn't. He in his little temper tantrum, he didn't fund this legislative staff. Mm-hmm. So it kind of thwarts the legislative branch's ability to carry out their duties under the Constitution. So yeah, I think this is ripe for a court challenge, and I agree with you guys. I hope that the leadership goes that route versus being dragged back into a special session to spend more money that the governor wants. Don't give him his way. Challenge him.
Now, Jeff O'Brien, I just, again, because I'm not a lawyer, does his quasi-justification in the press conference yesterday, what kind of bearing will that have potentially on a judge in making a decision on this? I mean, basically laying out that, he felt that they slipped in some of these provisions that he wasn't aware of, and he wanted to ensure that they came back to a new special session to work out these details. Does that change the dynamic? If, as opposed to him just coming out and saying he line item vetoed that and then not giving justification?
No, I don't think that his purported justification saves him here. I think what a court's going to look at is the court is going to look at, number one, looking at the constitutional provision. This is assuming if the legislative branch does challenge this. If the court's going to look at what the legislature's constitutional duties are, and did the governor's action is it going to prevent them from carrying out those duties? and whether or not the governor has the authority. I mean, yes, the governor has the line item veto, but whether or not the governor prevented the legislature from carrying out its constitutional obligations. To me, on the face of this, and I've just hearing about this in the last day since he did it, on the face of it, I think he's got a legal problem here.
Shifting gears to Rebecca Otto. This is what we originally asked you to come on for yesterday. This was before all the Governor Dayton news broke. Minnesota Court of Appeals did uphold the 2015 law giving counties more power to use private firms for financial reviews rather than rely on the state auditor. Rebecca Otto has said she is going to take this to the Supreme Court. She's going to appeal this and continue to fight this. This is the second time that the courts have decided in the legislature's favor, saying that this is a law that the legislature has the ability to pass because her duties are defined by the legislature. What do you think the Supreme Court is going to say?
Well, just to back up for some procedural stuff background here. So, this was filed as a declaratory judgment in district court. Summary judgment was granted against her. Summary judgment is the earliest point at which a case can be decided for or against somebody. So I think, Drew, you used the words earlier. She got smacked down. Mm-hmm. She did. I mean, this didn't even get to a trial. This got knocked out on a motion for summary judgment. Then she appealed to the Court of Appeals. Under Minnesota law, anybody that loses at the district court level has an automatic right to have their appeal heard. So the Court of Appeals has no choice. They have to hear the case. The Supreme Court, by contrast, has the choice as to whether or not they want to hear her case. If they choose not to hear her case, then they're letting the Court of Appeals decision stand. So I would not, unless they have something they want to say on this topic, different than what the Court of Appeals has already said in its opinion that was released yesterday, I could see that the Supreme Court may not even take this case.
Again, talking with lawyer extraordinaire Jeff O'Brien. Moving over to another trial, just really quick here. Star Tribune reported that attorneys for Officer Yanez made a last-minute argument critical to his self-defense strategy, the contentious first day of the trial in the fatal shooting of Philando Castile. So before the judge could swear in the pool of 50 potential jurors, defense attorneys argued to toss out any mention of Castile's permit to carry the handgun he had at the time he was shot. The officer's team also wants to examine whether Castile lied about his alleged marijuana use. The defense attorneys have argued all along that Castile was negligent in his own death because he was high on marijuana at the time of the traffic stop and subsequently should have never possessed a gun. Now, the Ramsey County District Court judge did not immediately rule on the permit issue, and the marijuana use remains open for debate. Do you think this is going to end up being the core of what is looked at with this trial, or is this just one of many pieces of this puzzle?
I think, John, it's one of many pieces. I mean, this is typical kind of standard procedure for trials like this. No, I don't do criminal law. I've got partners that do, but I have a basic understanding of it from my law school days and being around, lawyers that do it. But, there's all sorts of pre-trial motions that go into, it's not just about picking a jury when you go into these cases. And both sides are going to try to limit, what certain information or are going to try to want to get certain information admitted ahead of time that the jury can hear, because certain things, certainly there's the presumption that if you hear that Philando Castile was high at the time on marijuana, that's a fact that could go against him. So the prosecution is going to want that fact kept away from the jury because it's prejudicial. So this is kind of standard operating procedure where both sides are going back and forth. They're trying to agree on the jurors that are going to hear the case. They're going to try to agree on, try to see what evidence is going to be heard, and the judge, as the neutral, is going to decide ultimately if there's a dispute, what he's going to allow and what he's not going to allow.
Lawyer extraordinaire Jeff O'Brien, always appreciate your time and your expertise. Thanks for making some time for us this morning.
Thanks for having me on, guys.
All right, we'll talk to you again soon.